All right, today we're going to talk about how to multiply and divide integers. So, if we look at the chart, it says if you're multiplying same signs or dividing same signs, your answer is going to be positive. So, what that means is if I have a positive times a positive, my answer is going to be a positive. Negative times a negative, my answer is going to be positive. Positive divided by a positive, my answer is going to be positive. Negative divided by a negative, my answer is going to be positive. Okay, so that is your same sign. Different signs would be a positive divided by a negative divided by a positive times a negative, or a negative times a positive. Okay, so those are your different signs, and if you have different signs, your answer is going to be negative. Okay, so just looking at the bottom questions, we just need to decide what the sign will be. So we have a positive times a positive, so my answer is going to be a positive. I have a negative times a negative, so my answer is going to be a positive. I have a positive times a negative, different signs, so my answer is going to be a negative. Negative times a positive, my answer is going to be negative. Yeah, positive divided by a positive, so my answer is going to be a positive. Negative divided by a negative, my answer is going to be positive. Negative divided by a positive, my answer is going to be a negative. Positive divided by a negative, my answer is going to be a negative. Okay? So let's see how this goes with actual computation. So 2 times 5. So we have a positive times a positive, so I know my answer is going to be positive, and 2 times 5 is 10. I have a positive times a negative, so now I know my answer is going to be a negative, and 3 times 5 is 15. I have a negative times a negative, so I know my answer is going to be a positive, and then 1 times 3 is 3. This should actually be a negative. So I have a negative times a positive, my answer is going to be negative, and then 3 times 4 is 12. Okay, so go ahead and do the bottom practice problems. Pause the video, and then when you're ready to start again, go ahead and hit play. So we have a positive times a positive, so your answer should be positive 4. Positive times a negative, answer should be negative 12. Negative times a positive, so it's negative 4. Negative times a negative, so your answer is going to be positive 9. So double check your answers, make sure your signs match, and make sure you did your multiplication correctly. Then we could do the same thing when it comes to division. So we have a positive divided by a positive, which equals a positive. 15 divided by 5 is a positive 3. If you're not the best at division, you could also think about it as what times 5 is going to give me 15. Okay? So we have a negative divided by a positive. So our answer is going to be a negative. 12 divided by 2 is 6. Again, if we're not the best at dividing, we need to think what times 2 is going to give me 12. Negative divided by a positive, we're going to have negative. 9 divided by 3 is 3. So 3 times what gives you 9? 3. Got a negative divided by a negative, so your answer is going to be a positive. And then 10 divided by 1 is 10. So go ahead and take some time to do your bottom questions. Remember, if you don't know how to divide, think about the little prompts that I'm adding down here. Okay, so we have a positive divided by a positive, so it should be positive. What times 4 gives you 20? 5. We have a negative divided by a positive, so your answer is going to be negative. What times 5 gives you 10? It's 2. We have a positive divided by a negative, so it's going to be a negative. 6 times what gives you 12? It's going to be a 2. Negative divided by a positive, so your answer is going to be a negative. What times 2 gives you 14? It'll be 7. So double check your signs and your division. Okay, then we have word problems. So a submarine dives 20 meters each minute for 15 minutes. What is the total change after 15 minutes? So 20 meters, 15 minutes each. What is the total change? So the diver is diving 20 meters for 15 minutes. So we want to know how far has this submarine traveled. So your total change is telling you that you need to multiply. So it's going to be 20 times 15. Okay, and then let's think back to single or double digit multiplication. So we go down first. 0 times 5 is 5. Go diagonal. 5 times 2 is, 0 times 5 is 0. 5 times 2 is 10. Done with the 5, put a 0. 1 times 0 is 0. 1 times 2 is 2. Add that together, and you get 300. So what is the total change in depth after 15 minutes? The submarine will be at 300 meters. Okay, let's take a look at our next one. A penalty in Meter Mania is 5 seconds. Penalty in Cosmic Calamity is -7 seconds. Yolanda has penalties totaling 25 seconds in a game of Meter Mania and 35 seconds in a game of Cosmic Calamity. In which game did Yolanda receive more penalties? Okay, so we have to divide this into 2 problems. First, let's deal with Meter Mania. So the total amount of penalties that she received in Meteor Mania was -25 seconds. Okay? The amount for one penalty is -5 seconds. So we're trying to find how many penalties she got. So we need to divide. So a negative divided by a negative, your answer is going to be a positive. 25 divided by 5 is going to be 5. So she received 5 penalties for Meteor Mania. Cosmic Calamity, she received a total of -35 seconds in her game. Each of those penalties is -7 seconds. So you need to figure out how many total penalties she received. So -35 divided by -7 gives us +5 penalties. So the question is, in which game did Yolanda receive more penalties? Well, they were equal. So she received the same amount of penalties in both games. Okay, so we have 2 word problems here for you to practice. So you could go ahead and take your time, pause the video, and come back when you're ready. All right, let's take a look. A temperature rises 2 degrees Celsius each hour from 6 a.m. to 3 p.m. What is the total change in the temperature during this period of time? So first of all, we need to figure out what is this period of time that they're talking about. Okay, so we need to look from 6 a.m. to 3 p.m. We need to figure out how many hours that actually is. So from 6 to 7 is 1 hour, 7 to 8, 8 to 9, 9 to 10, 10 to 11, 11 to 12, 12 to 1, 1 to 2, 2 to 3. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 hours. So the temperature is rising 2 hours over the course of 9 hours, we need to figure out the total change. So that's going to be multiplication. 2 times 9 gives us 18 degrees. So what is the total change in temperature during this period of time? It is 18 degrees. All right, a diver descended a total of 150 feet below sea level. If he descended 5 feet per minute, how many minutes did it take him to reach 150 feet? So this guy's going down to 150 feet below sea level. Your negative sign represents the below sea level. And he is going down 5 feet per minute. So we want to know how many minutes it took him to travel this distance. So per is your keyword that tells you you need to divide. So we got 150 divided by 5. So 5 can't go into 1, but it could go into 15 3 times. And we get 0. 5 can't go into 0, so we're just back to 0. So we are at... How many minutes did it take him to reach 150 feet? It's actually positive 30 because this 5 should be negative because it's descending. So it took him 30 minutes to reach 150 feet.